All right, well, welcome to the presentation. Thanks for being here. And we're going to go over really three main things that impact everybody's lives on a fundamental basis. But before we do, let me just show the disclaimer there. And you can pause that and take a look at that. So we're going to go over the science of human health and prove that if you're not on an Isogenics meal replacement shake, the best meal on the planet, then you're going to get healthier. You're going to feel better. You're going to have positive results. And I'm going to prove that scientifically. And then number two, you want to create a habit, but it's got to be something that you enjoy doing, something that's simple. If it takes willpower, and it always takes willpower, eventually you'll stop doing it because willpower eventually wears off. If it's something that we enjoy doing and we become addicted to it in a good way, and it's easy to do, then that's something that we can adopt as a healthy lifestyle or as a habit. And what I'm saying here is that is what Isogenics represents, is creating a simple, delicious, easy, healthy lifestyle as a habit. And then number three, saving you money. Mathematically, we've always been doing that. But now, because of inflation, it's even a greater savings, and so many people could use that right now. So I think those are three important areas in our lives that we'll touch on today. This was me before Isogenics, and I couldn't, in spite of my best efforts, doing cardio, exercise, riding my bike to work, and every day forcing myself through willpower, running stadiums and lifting weights and eating healthy and even juicing and supplementing, I wasn't getting the results that I expected I would get and that I used to get when I was younger. And what I had found out, was my work environment, the toxicity, the lack of nutrition in the foods that I was eating that looked healthy was a big part of the problem. And we're going to talk about that today. But I got introduced to Isogenics through my wife pretty reluctantly. And that's my first month, from August to the end of September, end of August to the end of September. And I felt so much better. My energy improved, my mental clarity. I started dropping the weight like I would have expected to. And I wasn't writing off, oh, I guess this is what happens when you get older. I was only 36 years old right there, so I wasn't really that old. And but that's kind of the excuses we use when things aren't working the way that we think they should. And then I just continued on. Like, this was an easy, delicious, simple process. And so I just continued it, and I continued to exercise. And I got back to my high school weight in like 4.5 months. It was amazing. And everybody noticed. And so here I am today, continuing to share that information that blessed my life 19 years ago. This month, 19 years ago. Well, August, so I guess it was last month, right? And the two products that I used, we only had about 3 or 4 products back then. These were the two foundational pillars that I used to have these results. So it was very simple. It was delicious. And it made sense when I started to understand the science behind it. But those are the two products. We've expanded that now. But again, things that really work are typically, usually simple and not complicated. And so hopefully I can help get that across today as to why, this made such a profound impact in my life after trying everything else that was out there. Hippocrates, who's known as the father of medicine, he says, let your food be your medicine and your medicine be your food. There's something called micro and macronutrients, and those supply our body with what it needs to fuel it. And then the body has this ability, this tremendous ability to defend and repair. So to keep us operating and to defend and repair any problems that arise, those are built in innately into the body, but they don't work properly if we're not getting those micro and macronutrients. In today's society, we've gotten so far away from this with the ultra-processed food, and even the medical community. They don't take classes now on nutrition. Just as an example, I have a friend at church. I was talking to him about a lot of things, and I mentioned that, doctors really don't take nutritional classes anymore. And he came back to me a couple weeks later and he said, hey, I talked to my son-in-law, and I'm like, really, about what? And he said, well, he's an MD, he's a medical doctor. And I asked him how much education he got on nutrition. And he said, not even 60 minutes, not even 1 hour on the clock. So we've gotten away from that, and it's showing up in our health now to where nutrition is getting less emphasis, and it's starting to make a comeback now. But we're going to listen to a healthcare professional, Casey means. And let's just listen to the video here. It's pretty self-explanatory, but it's pretty eye-opening, the information that she shares. And it's kind of like what we've been trying to get out there, but let's take a listen to this.
You're a doctor.
Yes.
Tell us the progression of your thinking on this and what it did to your life.
Yeah, absolutely. So trained at Stanford Medical School, then trained as a head and neck surgeon.
Undergrad Stanford. Also.
Undergrad Stanford, medical school at Stanford, then went on to train in head and neck surgery. Yes. 9 years into my postgraduate training.
How did you do in medical school and college?
Did well, was president of my Stanford class, graduating, taught my class with honors in medical school, and went on to a very competitive surgical subspecialty.
Okay, so I'm just saying, because normally I dismiss credentials out of hand, but these are real credentials and they matter, I think, to your credibility. Okay.
And I did what every good little medical student, wants to do, which is climb the ranks of that academic ladder. But,
you killed it.
Did well,
yeah.
And I got to the top of that mountain, right? 9 years into my postgraduate training. And I looked around me and I realized that, patients in America are getting destroyed. Children, adults, the elderly. You're so distracted in your little surgical subspecialty, focusing on the ear, nose, and throat where I was, and you get distracted. You look around at what's happening to Americans, and our health is getting worse every single year. Patients in America are getting much sicker every year, more depressed. We're getting infertile, and life expectancy is going down.
Okay, so what I wanted to get across in this little video was her accolades, her background, healthcare professional. And I may have the names backwards on here. Her brothers interviewing with her, and it's Casey and Callie. And I still don't know, so I'll fix that. I apologize. But, so giving her background there, we're going to go into a little bit more now of what she's seen after 9 years postgraduate, what she's seen with her patients and how she's feeling about that.
And you decide not to do it?
Yeah. I'm in the operating room in my 5th year of my surgical residency, and I'm looking down at a patient in front of me who's on our 3rd revision sinus surgery. And, I know how to diagnose her. I know how to write the prescriptions. I know how to do the surgery. But what I kind of realized in that moment was I have no idea why this patient's actually sick. She has so many other health issues, prediabetes, arthritis. She's got some brain fog. She's got obesity, and she's got this sinus issue. And in my training, I was never, ever, ever taught to look at the whole patient, to look at how all these things are connected. And I was only taught how to, do the surgery and then bill for it. And I realized that there's a huge problem in how we're practicing medicine right now, which is we're ignoring the root causes of why Americans are sick. And we're profiting off of patients getting sick and then doing things to them. That's the way the business model of healthcare works. The way that healthcare, which is the largest and fastest growing industry in the United States, makes money is you have more patients in the system having more things done to them for longer periods of time. And when I kind of put some of these pieces together and realized that my training had totally essentially incapacitated me from really understanding why patients are sick and how to actually help them thrive, I actually had to walk away from the surgical world, because I realized that I was only making money off of essentially not spending time helping patients understand their health and actually just profiting off their illness.
So 9 years into medical training at Stanford, you gave it up voluntarily.
On my birthday, 30th birthday, I walked into the office of the chair of the department, and I put down the scalpel and I walked away, and I devoted my life to why are Americans getting sicker every year? Why are 50% of American children dealing with a chronic health issue? This was less than 1% 50 years ago. Why is our health getting destroyed the more that we spend?
So what did they say when you walk into your colleagues at Stanford and say, I'm giving it up at 30?
It wasn't really a conversation. I knew that I couldn't cut into one more person until I understood why Americans are getting sicker every single year. I think that the unfortunate thing is that doctors don't really understand, because every level of our education is systematically focused on blinding us from thinking about root causes. We have over 100 medical and surgical subspecialties right now. And how you make money in the American healthcare system is you take a patient with 10 different issues and you send them to 10 different specialists, put them on 10 different meds, maybe eventually have 10 different surgeries. You never actually are taught how to put the pieces together, look at the whole body as a system, which of course it is. And part of this is because who are the people underwriting our medical education? It's the pharmaceutical companies. We are taught how to be very algorithmic and robotic in how we look at patients. And so ultimately I left the surgical world and I went down the rabbit hole of asking why. Why are we getting sicker every year?
It's just such a radical move to do something like that.
Yeah. I mean,
your whole life you're working toward a goal and then you give it up?
Yeah.
After 9 years?
Yeah. This is the thing that I understood and that I am working and we are spending our lives to evangelize this book, Good Energy, is that the reasons why Americans are getting sicker every year are very simple.
Okay, so yeah, they are very simple. They're also complex and pretty alarming, things that she says that we're going to hear some more from her and her brother as well that will go a little bit deeper into the problem.
And
but you look at somebody here, Sarah, who is a good friend, and here she is under that system that she's talking about, and she's not getting better, and she's having issues, and she has to stay close to the hospital in case she needs to rush over there and get a transfusion. So, I think we're all kind of waking up to, this system and how we're being treated and that we're not getting better. We're ranked over 50th in the world for quality of life in the United States. Over 50th, that means a lot of third world countries are doing better than us. And, as much money as we put into our healthcare system and all the studies and everything, why are we not getting better? Why is it getting worse? Ranked over 50th for quality of life. That's how we get to show up every day, how we get to live our lives, doing the things that we enjoy doing and doing them when we want to do them. And so as you can see here, she's not doing the things that she enjoys doing, which is hiking and kayaking and, going out and being in nature. So here she is now, her OT, occupational therapist, Crystal, who I also is a good friend, and we work together in Isogenics, and she shared, good nutrition with her, and I'm not making any claims around curing anything, but her quality of life has definitely improved, and being able to do things that she's always wanted to do. This is about 9 months ago, this picture here, and she actually qualified. She may win our Isabody Challenge, which is going to be this next week. We're going to be at our celebration. She has an opportunity through entering this contest to win $25,000, and she's already gotten prizes and things as a runner-up. This was about 5 months ago, and this was last month. And she is enjoying doing the things that she loves doing, kayaking and hiking and being in the outdoors. And so now we're seeing quality of life, and now we're seeing the correlation here. Crystal shared the nutrition with her, and she's having positive results, and now she's able to go out and do. So what Hippocrates was saying was like, get your health and your quality of life through your nutrition. But the nutrition is so compromised. So we're going to learn a few more things about that, and then we'll hear some more from the interview. So I think a lot of us know, I'm coming up on 60 years old here pretty soon, a couple of years, and we didn't have the processed food, the ultra processed food like we do today. We had it back then, but not like the amount of it and all of the different varieties that there are now. I think we could all look at these and say, yeah, that's junk food. But when I started to really dive into this and learn about it, I was like, whoa, this is not okay, these ultra processed foods. And when you start to learn about the different ingredients and the colorings and the dyes and the things that those cause within the human body, and then also, the pesticides that are being sprayed on our fruits and vegetables that actually get into them. So let's listen to her brother now, who was a lobbyist for the pharmaceutical companies and the ultra processed food companies in DC, and what he has to say about seeing it from that perspective.
So as your sister is on one end of the equation, you're on the other. So you both have, you're from a community of strivers. That's what DC is.
Exactly.
And merit badge gatherers. And you've gotten two of the greatest merit badges ever.
Right.
HBS, Stanford Medical School. But you're all of a sudden finding yourself in Washington. Can you just explain your background a little bit?
Yeah, so I just Casey was a bit smarter than me on the biology route. I wanted to be contributing to politics from an early age, and went to Stanford to go back into politics, studied economics, political science, went straight back to campaigns after school. What I learned quickly is that in campaigns over, you work for the biggest spenders in DC, and I found myself across the desks from food industry and the farm industry. The farm industry spends 5 times more in DC than the oil industry. By far the biggest spender. Bipartisan, you're working for pharma. But starting with food, I learned early on that the food industry, and this is my construct, the food industry and the processed food industry was created by the cigarette industry. And I think this is very telling. It's something I learned. So in the 1990s, the two largest food companies in the world were R.J. Reynolds and Philip Morris. What happened is when the Surgeon General way too late in the 1980s said cigarettes were maybe problematic, these were some of the largest companies in the world with the largest cash piles of any company in the world. So what they did is they used their cash piles to buy food companies. We think about the 80s as the Wall Street era M&A, a lot of deals. The two biggest M&A deals up until 1990 in world history were cigarette companies buying food companies. So you had in the 90s, these two cigarette companies very strategically do two things. They shifted their thousands of scientists who were experts at making cigarettes addictive to the food department. So we had the rise of ultra-processed food where our food now is a science experiment. The second thing they did is they shifted their lobbying. So the cigarette industry, of course, was the biggest, lobbying spenders and had a good playbook. They shifted their playbook on lobbying and rigging institutions of trust to food. So they created the food pyramid. So the cigarette industry, through the food companies they bought, paid off the FDA, the USDA, Harvard to create reports saying sugar doesn't cause obesity. And they lobbied for the food pyramid in the 1990s, we all remember, which said, animal-based fats are bad, carbs are good. Remember, carbs and sugar were basically the base of the pyramid. So the American diet, because of that, because we trust our medical institutions, which they know, we shifted our diet significantly to ultra-processed food. It was very intentional, the food pyramid. That was a ultra-processed food marketing document that carbs were fine, sugar was fine. And that shifted, and you look at dietary patterns. Today, a child diet is 70% ultra-processed food. Now, what does that mean, right? Those are literally foods invented by the cigarette industry to addict kids. Obviously we've got sugar, but there's thousands of different ingredients and science concoctions that scientists work in a lab to make it more palatable, to make it more addictive. So food consumption, calorie consumption has skyrocketed. And the byproduct of these toxic ingredients that the cigarette industry I watched and helped with this, bought off the USDA, bought off the FDA, is they wreak havoc among our cells. The foundation of our diet is ingredients that we aren't biologically made to eat, that didn't exist 100 years ago. The foundation of our diet is three things when you look at any label. It's added sugar, processed sugar, which basically didn't exist 100 years ago. It's just from natural sources. Ultra-processed grains, which were invented 100 years ago. The processing takes the fiber off. They're basically hidden sugars, devoid of nutritional value. And seed oils. Seed oils are the top source of American calories. And this is actually
seed oil, the top source of American calories.
Soybean oil, canola oil. This is the baseline of American calories right now. And these seed oils were actually created by John D. Rockefeller as a byproduct of oil production. It's basically engine lubricant. And the Rockefeller and those aligned with him actually lobbied to have this suitable for human consumption. That's how seed oils came into the American diet. They're much cheaper, but they're highly inflammatory. And just by definition, just at the highest level, these ingredients and all the chemicals we can't name that are in ultra-processed food are not natural ingredients that our bodies are made to handle. So there's, as we talk about in Good Energy, this produces a lot of side effects to our cells. The food industry isn't trying to kill Americans. They're trying to make food cheap and addictive. And what I learned, in the morning meeting with the food companies, trying to lobby and influence the USDA, being the lifeblood of nutrition research, paying off, nutrition research at Harvard and Stanford as a junior employee, shocked by that.
So you saw that?
Oh, my first week, as working for these industries, it was a list of top professors. And the food industry pays 11 times more for foundational nutrition research than the NIH. You go to any nutrition school in the country, the lifeblood of their school, they'll proudly admit this is from the processed food industry. In the past 2 years, there's been 50,000 peer-reviewed research studies on nutrition. We're the only animal that has peer-reviewed nutrition studies, and we're the only animals that are systematically obese, diabetic, and being crippled by metabolic dysfunction. We're born with an innate sense of knowing what's right for us. The problem very strategically, and this is well known among the industry, is that ultra-processed food does, because they're able to do this science experiment with our food, it hijacks our biology, it hijacks our satiety signals. High fructose corn syrup, fructose, it makes us want to eat more. because in the wild, when you see a bunch of fruit out there, you're well advised to eat it, historically. We've basically rigged our biology to hijack our signals that, make us satiated. So that's what ultra-processed food does. So that's the food industry, okay? The food industry actually, with their own set interests, want to make food addictive and cheaper. It kind of makes sense. The criminal devil's bargain is that it's highly tied to the healthcare industry. And as Casey said, the fastest growing industry in America right now isn't AI. It's not tech, it's healthcare. It's the largest and fastest growing industry. And just as a statement of economic fact, the best thing for that industry is a child getting sick. When a child gets sick, or any American gets sick with a chronic condition, with diabetes, obesity, kidney disease, heart disease, whatever, they go on a lifetime medication. They go on the metformin, they go on the statin, they have lifetime treatments. And they keep racking up more comorbidities. If you're diabetic, you have an average of 4 other comorbidities. So you keep racking up, but you don't die, you just suffer. You inevitably get infertility, depression, you start racking them up. So that's very good for the medical system to have these chronic conditions that need to be managed. Just from a pure economic standpoint, that's how the system's set up.
Okay, so you can kind of see that now, getting that education there and that information, where the cigarette companies who got people addicted to something that was obviously, we know now, not good for their health. And so they had to get these lobbyists to go in and pay money to people who were passing the bills, doing the studies, the professors. I mean, it's crazy, right? Like, I would never even think that way. So it's hard for a lot of us to realize that, because I'm gullible. I trust people, and so here's these facts. And then these cigarette companies and the scientists trying to do that, because they saw their number was up. There was just so much coming out about it. I remember in the 80s, all the advertisements about how smoking's not good for you. Well, they had to shift, right? They wanted to continue to make profits, and they're making profits over people, right? And so they did it with the food, and that's how we've gradiently, gotten to where we are today. His sister's gonna finish this up in just a minute here with some really amazing and jaw-dropping statistics and what it's related to, how all of these things are systemic of this ultra-processed food. One thing that I learned, though, early on, being a part of Isogenics and just the great education and people that are willing to share and help us understand, was this study here, where it took 51 bowls of spinach in 2007 to give you the same amount of nutritional quality that used to be in 1 bowl of spinach in the 1950s. So now you'd have to eat 51 bowls to get the same nutritional content, those micronutrients, those macro and micronutrients. And now it's about 75 bowls of spinach today. And there's study after study and documentary after documentary that are showing that these micro and macronutrients are no longer in our soil. So here we have on one side the ultra processed food that obviously doesn't have the nutrition in it, but it also has the harmful things. And then here we have on the other side the things that are supposed to be healthy, the whole foods, that are falling short in the micro and macronutrients. And this is a graph, a little more recent one, where it's showing these minerals. You got to have about 60 minerals minimum on a daily basis going into your body, and then the other 30 are your key vitamins, amino acids, and fatty acids. So about 90 different micro and macronutrients going into your body every day. Well, this is a study that is showing here's about 8 of the minerals: iron, zinc, calcium, phosphorus, and selenium. They're not even in the soil anymore. Now remember, that's to help fuel the body to do what? So it can operate, so you can have quality of life, but also fuel, defend, and repair. Defend and repair. And since it can't defend and repair, look at the breakdown of the body. There's no counter to, the body being attacked. And this is the rise of disease as a result. And wait till you hear the statistics from this interview on where these are at now. When I started, cancer was 1 in 3 for women and 1 in 4 for men, or 1 in 4 for women and 1 in 3 for men. And now it's 1 in 2. And wait till you hear some of these other statistics on that and other things as well, diabetes and autism, things that are related. So Linus Pauling, the guy has 48 PhDs and 2 Nobel Prizes decades before this came out, because we're showing lack of minerals, rise of disease. He says every sickness and disease can be traced back to a mineral deficiency. And so here we're seeing it. Look where the diseases were. They were almost non-existent when those minerals were in the soils back in the early 1900s. So This was probably the most jaw-dropping part of this interview, that they go over these statistics. And recently, even on mainstream media, we heard RFK talking about he was quoting basically what she says here from this interview.
What can you just give us the baseline condition of health in the United States?
Absolutely. So the word I used earlier, destroyed, is not hyperbolic in any way, shape, or form. 74% of American adults now are overweight or obese. Close to 50% of children are overweight or obese. 120 years ago, when someone was obese, there were case reports written about it.
Yes.
Literally, there were people in the circus if you had obesity.
Sideshow fat. Yeah, it was so unusual.
It was so unusual. It is now 74% of our country. 77% of young adults are unfit to serve in the military because of these issues like obesity. Now let's talk about diabetes. 50%, a full 50% of American adults have prediabetes or type 2 diabetes, which is a fundamental issue in how
half
the country, Tucker, have prediabetes or type 2 diabetes, and 30% of teens now have prediabetes. This was a condition that no pediatrician would have seen in their lifetime 50 years ago. 1% of Americans in 1950 had type 2 diabetes. We have 18% of teens with fatty liver disease, a disease that used to be in late stage alcoholics. Cancer rates are skyrocketing in the young and the elderly. Young adult cancers are up 79%. And this is the first year in American history we're estimated to have over 2 million cases of cancer. 25% of American women are on an antidepressant medication. 40% of 18-year-olds have a mental health diagnosis. We have the highest infant and maternal mortality rate in the entire developed world, despite spending 2x on infant and maternal care than any other country. So you have a higher risk of dying as a woman giving birth in America than any other developed country in the world. Autism rates in kids are 1 in 36 nationally. This was 1 in 1,500 in the year 2000, and the screening has not changed in California, where I live.
And I just want to linger on that. And the screening has not changed. So
in 20 years,
the definition hasn't changed.
No, 1 in 32 from 1 in 1,500 in California. 1 in 36 right now. It was 1 in 1,500 in California. It's 1 in 22. One of the worst states in the country for autism. So this is just a smattering.
What the hell is that?
And all of these conditions, I mean, and I could go on and on. Autoimmune diseases, infertility is at peak rates. I mean, I don't know how this is not front page news. Infertility is going up 1% per year. Sperm counts are going down 1% per year since the 1970s. Sperm counts are down.
Continuing to drop?
Continuing to drop.
At an increasing rate. Our bodies are crying out for help.
26% of women have polycystic ovarian syndrome. Now, the thing that people need to understand is that all of these conditions are caused or driven by the exact same thing, which is metabolic dysfunction, this core foundational issue of how our bodies on the cellular level function, which is driven by our toxic food system and our toxic environment.
Okay, so not great news, right? But the thing that we get so passionate about is the solution, right? And focusing on the positive. And Dr. Paul Arciero, who has over 90 published clinical studies in medical journals, a study he did with our company and our products compared to a whole food diet was just published in Nature Communications, which it's the pinnacle of publications. It's the hardest, it's the strictest to get into. If you get into it, then everything you have to take it at face value because it's been so scrutinized. It's the hardest to get into when it comes to scrutiny. And we are published in that now with our study. He's so proud of that. And it's, really put him in the limelight as to not just the fact that we're in that publication, but the results that were produced by the nutrition from Isogenics. They had never seen it before. So it sounds so fantastic and so unreal, but it's not. It's reality, and it's published in Nature Communications. And Dr. Paul Arciero, we invited him on a Zoom not too long ago to talk about this metabolic dysfunction. That's what this study was years ago that he did it. And so let's listen to him talk about one of the people in the study.
All right, so the changes were profound. One of the things that we did was we had one study participant who was in the protein pacing nutritional fasting group. And this gentleman was 62 years old. So I just want to speak to some of you out there that think age makes a difference in how we respond to things. I'm here to tell you that nothing is further from the truth. At 62 years old, he had the greatest response. And again, the average age was 44, 46. He was 62. He had the greatest change in body weight loss, body fat loss, visceral fat loss, and gut remodeling. This is his gut remodeling right here that I'm showing you. We followed him because he lost 105 pounds in 120 days. His doctor called me and she said, this is unbelievable. I've been working with this patient for over 30 years. He's tried every diet known to humans, and he's never had this type of a response. His liver enzymes, his kidney enzymes, his blood work, he's reversed his diabetes. And I know, many of you aren't able to say this, but I can because I documented it in the study. He reversed his diabetes, he reversed his high blood pressure, he reversed his high blood lipids, all of those. He had high blood pressure, he had type 2 diabetes, he had hypertension, all of that reversed. Amazing. I'm going to end here because I think this brings it all home. Look at his gut in the picture on the left. This is him when he started. And this was 3 days before we started the study. We started the study in the fall, right at Labor Day. This is him 3 days before the study started, because we asked everyone of the subjects to take a picture of themselves. This is him the day of his testing, 4 months later. We live, we're up in upstate New York, so of course we had snow. So this is in 4 months, 120 days, he lost 105 pounds. He reduced his body fat drastically. His waist circumference just fell off. His blood sugar, again, he was diabetic. He went from diabetic to non-diabetic. He was hypertensive to non-hypertensive. I think I'll end there just because that's a telling picture that speaks 1,000 words. And I'm just so grateful. So to finish, what we found was that in comparison to a protein pacing, nutritional fasting, to a heart healthy Mediterranean style diet, total weight, fat, and visceral fat loss was upwards of 58% improvement. Gut microbial diversity was a 25% increase. And then the reduction in GI symptoms was 55% improvement. All right, so the changes were profound.
So on some levels, it's really complex, right? Taking on these big entities out there, these big corporations and all of that entails, like that's all complex and complicated. But the root problem is really very simple. And in this clinical study that Dr. Paul did, that again has been published in Nature Communications, so you have to take all this at face value. We went up against the heart healthy diet, which is a whole food diet, basically getting your micro and macros from the grocery store. And these subjects, there's two groups, one that was eating from the grocery store and one that was eating Isogenics. And the quick bullet points of the results, fat loss, and this was with no exercise in a 6-month period. They showed his results in 4 months, but the study was actually 6 months. And we released 4 times more fat while putting on 4 times more muscle, again, with no exercise. So again, the body's ability to what? Repair, defend, and repair. As we lose muscle and atrophy our bones and our muscle and our organs stop working, as effectively and efficiently. It's not supposed to do that. It's because of the deprivation in these micro and macronutrients. And the bottom line is Isogenics put them back in the meal replacement shake. And so the bare minimum is about 90, but we're closer to 200 active ingredients in this shake. So not only did we outperform the whole food, which is insufficient, it doesn't have the adequate amount of micro and macronutrients anymore because it's not in the soil. So you're only getting partial of what you need on the bare minimum, but we've gone over the bare minimum, those 90 nutrients, and are closer to 200. And Dr. Paul said, had I seen this study, these results and not been a part of it, I would have said, BS, there's no way, because the human body doesn't perform like this. So there's things that the body did that they had never seen before, like the release of 33% decrease in visceral fat, the harmful fat that's around the organs. He said, you don't even see that with exercise. So I would have had to say, this is not possible because we'd never seen it before. But the reason why goes back to a very fundamental reason. we've got the nutrients back in to the food source. And so it's delicious and nutritious. And as Lenny's mother would say, you know, this is not only delicious, but it's also nutritious. And it's meeting the needs of the body on a scientific level. So that's a clinical study, again, that ended up in Nature Communications. So the nutrients, we got them back in. Again, that sounds very simple, but there's so many supplements out there that are compromised and the quality isn't there. Again, profits over people. And, you know, I've read the studies and read the, you know, the different things that labs have in testing other supplements where they don't have what they say are in it. And so it's just unfortunate that those things happen. And could you imagine if we had gone up against the average American diet? We would have been like 15 times more fat loss, right? I mean, this would have been, you know, there would have been no change in the human body. These people came from just normal backgrounds, and all of a sudden they start eating a healthy whole food diet, and also those that were on Isogenics. So it was a good representation compared to a heart healthy diet, but most people aren't on the heart healthy diet. So that's why we see and why we get so passionate about the results that we're seeing for ourselves and for other people. And go back to, you know, the picture that I showed of Sarah. All the heart healthy markers improved, and they continue to maintain and improve over a 52-week period over the year, not just the 6 months. And those that were on the heart healthy diet, they actually started to decline. They started gaining weight back and started losing muscle. Why? Because it's insufficient. That's why. All right, so the other thing that I wanted to show here was the savings, because usually when you improve the quality of something, you're going to pay more. Or with supplements, usually you think of a supplement as you're going to have an extra expense on top of your food budget, because they usually come in pills and, you know, potions and lotions or whatever, and they're in a bottle, and they're not going to satisfy your calorie needs, your food intake need, and when it comes to those macro and micronutrients. But Isogenics, we kind of, you know, turned all that upside down in the supplement world. We made the shake a complete meal replacement. And that's in the study, they were doing 2 shakes a day, and then they would do 1 meal from the grocery store. And so literally for 6 months, they were doing 2 shakes a day. And I've been doing them for 19 years now, 2 shakes a day. And I love it. I crave it. It is delicious. And I love the results that I get. Now, this is an example that I've been using since 2005, 2006. That meal from Burger King in 2006 was $7.40. And our shake was $2.74. So we've gone up like $1.14. And we just recently, because of inflation and the cost of things and, you know, the supply chain and all that, we just recently did our increase, and that's the most recent increase. It just was last month. They said, we're sorry, we have to do it again. They've only done it like 2 or 3 times, but like in 19 years, gone up like $1.14 or so. And here is probably, well, this is a representation of McDonald's. Now I did a large fry, a Big Mac, and a medium size drink. And it was $14.68. And McDonald's is probably the worst of fast food, right? You start eating healthier and be more health conscious when you go out for lunch, and you're going to be over $15. I'm not saying you can't get a cheaper meal. You can. You could buy Top Ramen or, you know, a cup of noodles, but that's not going to satiate you. It's not going to meet these areas here. And so you're going to need to be putting more into your body to get you from one meal to the next. Well, you would have to increase the cost of that meal because you had to have these other things to get you to the next meal. So, you know, you still might be less than the $15, but this is a true representation. And it's one that I've used for 19 years now. So staying along that same line, you know, of comparison, this is showing where inflation is now. You do 2 meals a day of this for 28 days, you're $840. I don't think too many people are going out to eat fast food anymore. In fact, you know, reports are showing that fast food businesses are struggling. And then this would be 2 shakes a day for 28 days would be $220. You know, try to go to the grocery store and get 56 meals, the healthiest meals that the grocery store has to offer. Not the cheapest, not the worst for you, but the healthiest meals. You'll probably be closer to this price here if that's how you shopped. You know, you can go to the grocery store, like I said, get cheaper things, But that's not a fair comparison because this is the world's healthiest meal. So at least you'd have to try to get the healthiest meals that the grocery store has to offer if we're going to evaluate just strictly price comparison here. And so, you know, even getting bad meals, 56 meals, 2/3 of your meals for the month, the entire month for $220, that would still be pretty hard pressed to do that, even buying the world's worst meals, you know, the grocery store's worst meals. But that's a savings of $632. Back when I started, we were telling people through studies that we had done in-house that you'd save about $100 a month if you replaced a meal with a shake. Well, I'm saying let's do the Great Shake Up Challenge, do 2 of the world's best meals a day for 28 days. And, you know, so now because of inflation, I'm going to say the average person, and I'll guarantee it, the average person will save $300 to $500 a month. So instead of like spending extra money on your supplements to get those nutrients that aren't in your food, this is your food and it's delicious. So they're all in, they're clinically proven. You can't refute that. You have to take it at face value. You know, even, you know, being in Nature Communications, that's the bottom line. There's no refuting that information now. That's the strictest of publications to be allowed to be in it. Now we're talking about savings along with that. And I pulled this off of Walmart's website, ready to eat, throw it in the microwave, macaroni and cheese. It's not really food, it's more food-like stuff, but that's a pretty cheap meal, $3.43. That's only pennies cheaper than the world's best meal, and this is probably the world's worst meal. And I don't know if you could do 2 meals of macaroni and cheese for the entire month, you know, every day, 2 meals. I know I couldn't. I don't even eat the stuff. I don't crave it anymore. But even if you liked it, I don't know that you could do 56, you know, meals of that in 28 days. You might start getting tired of it after 3 or 4 days. We don't get tired of the shake because it's nutritious and delicious. And when something's nutritious, it makes your body alkaline, and alkaline bodies continue to crave alkaline food. And since this is that alkaline food, it's your go-to. And you find yourself like craving, like you could go out to eat and it's like, I think I want a shake instead. I still go out to eat and I enjoy my life and I eat what I want to eat. I'll have a hamburger now and then, you know, but I'm getting the nutrition in my body that helps to fuel and defend against the hamburger that I put in my body. But there are some things that I just don't crave anymore. And so there's a savings there as well. I just don't eat them. I haven't had soda in 19 years and my body used to crave it. So there's a lot of things like that. You know, it satiates and it reduces your appetite and it also changes your cravings. And so it's a win-win scenario. And the bottom line is that's a healthy habit. And if, you know, you could, you know, get behind creating healthy habits for you and the people that you love, healthy people do healthy things every day. That's scientific. The healthy things that they do every day is not an opinion, and it's not what we think might be healthy. It is what is healthy. And we've proven it across the board with Isogenics. 30-day unconditional money-back guarantee. If you don't get whatever results, if you don't save the money, you could return it, right? Because it's an unconditional money-back guarantee. So many of us have gotten behind this. We've adopted it as our lifestyle, and we're helping other people to become aware of it. Paul Zane-Pilzer said, you know, he's a Nobel Prize winning economist. He said the reason a lot of people aren't doing some things that they would be doing had they known about it is for that reason alone. They don't know about it. They just haven't gotten the information yet. So, or that it's now affordable. Those are the 2 things he says, that you don't know it exists or you don't know it's now affordable. Healthy lifestyle is affordable thanks to Isogenics and getting those nutrients, scientifically proven. And observationally, we have so many before and after pictures, including my own. I released 53 pounds 19 years ago. So with that, you guys get back with the person who shared this video with you. Thanks for taking the time to watch it. And I hope you appreciate the information that was put out on this video, you know, and just, you know, don't keep it to yourself. Let's help other people to become aware of it and share this video with the people that you love and care about.